Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, am I doing better or worse with money than everyone else? It's one of those questions that creeps into your mind late at night, maybe when you're scrolling through social media and see someone on vacation in Bali while you're trying to figure out how to pay for your next car repair. We all compare ourselves to others, whether we admit it or not. But what if I told you there are actual numbers that show how much the average person earns, spends, saves, and owes? Some of these figures will surprise you. In fact, some might even make you feel better about your own situation. So today, let's break it down. We're going to look at real statistics, straight from places like the US Department of Labor, the Federal Reserve, and the Social Security Administration to see where the average American stands financially. And more importantly, we'll figure out what these numbers mean for you. Now remember, being average with money is not always a good thing. In fact, sometimes it's the exact opposite. So if you hear a number that makes you cringe, don't worry, you're not alone. And if you hear one that makes you think, wow, I'm actually ahead, that's even better motivation to keep going. Income. Do you earn more or less than the average worker? Let's start with the paycheck, because that's where everything begins. According to the US Department of Labor statistics, the median income for a full-time worker is about $1,041 per week. Multiply that out, and you're looking at roughly $52,000 per year, before taxes, of course. That breaks down to about $26 per hour if you're working a standard 40-hour week. Here's the thing, that's individual income. When you see headlines about average household income, that's a different number, because it adds together the income of everyone living under one roof: spouses, partners, even dependents who contribute. So the big question is, when you go to work each week, are you above that $1,041 mark or below it? If you're above, congrats! You're technically doing better than half of all workers. But don't celebrate too quickly, because what really matters is how far that money goes once you factor in bills, taxes, and savings. Retirement savings, the numbers that make people nervous. This is where things start to get a little uncomfortable. The Federal Reserve reports that the median amount saved for retirement among all US adults is $65,000. Yep, you heard that right, $65K. And that number only counts people who actually have retirement accounts. About 1/4 of Americans don't have any retirement savings at all. Let's do some quick math. If someone tried to retire today with $65,000 and used the classic 4% rule, that's the guideline that says you can safely withdraw 4% of your nest egg each year, that would give them just $2,600 per year in income. That's not even close to covering rent, let alone groceries, medical bills, and everything else. It gets even scarier when you break it down by age group. Federal Reserve data shows under 25, the median retirement balance is just $1,786. Ages 25 to 34, around $14,000. Ages 65 and up, about $88,000. Now here's the kicker. Experts often say you'll need at least $500,000 or more on top of Social Security and any other income streams to retire comfortably, which means a lot of people are way behind. But here's the good news. Just saving a little consistently can put you way ahead of the pack. If you're setting aside even 10–15% of your paycheck and investing it smartly, odds are you'll retire in a much stronger position than the average person your age. Social Security, not the golden ticket you think it is. Speaking of retirement, let's talk about Social Security. The Social Security Administration says the average monthly benefit is about $1,550. That's roughly $18,600 per year. Sounds okay at first glance, but think about it. Can you really live on $18,600 a year? That's not even enough to cover the average annual rent in many cities. And here's the kicker. If you earned less than average during your career, your benefit is likely to be lower than that number. Plus, the age you choose to start taking Social Security makes a huge difference. Claiming early at 62 means a smaller check every month. Waiting until 67 or even 70 means a bigger check. But waiting isn't always realistic. especially if health issues or job loss force you into early retirement. That's why many financial planners say to treat Social Security as a bonus, not your primary plan. If it's there when you retire, great, but don't build your entire future around it. Spending. Where does all the money go? Let's move to the spending side of the equation. According to the Department of Labor, the average US household spends about $5,577 per month. Over a year, that adds up to about $67,000. Let's break that down. Housing takes the biggest bite, around $1,885 per month, or 34% of total spending. Food comes in at about $691 per month. Transportation adds another $913 per month. When you add up housing, food, and transportation, you're already looking at over half of the typical budget. And that's before you even touch healthcare, entertainment, or debt payments. So here's the question. If the average household spends $67K a year, but the average worker only earns $52K, how does that math work? Well, that's where two incomes in a household often come into play. Or, unfortunately, it's where debt starts creeping in. Credit scores and debt, the double-edged sword. Now let's talk about credit. Believe it or not, the average FICO score in America is actually pretty solid, 715, according to Experian. That's in the good range, which means most people qualify for decent interest rates on loans. But don't let that number fool you. A lot of people are still drowning in debt. Wallet Hub reports the average household carries $9,260 in credit card debt. And this isn't the good kind of debt, like a mortgage on an appreciating home. This is the kind that usually comes from buying stuff you don't really need, electronics, clothes, random Amazon splurges, and then paying sky-high interest rates of 15, 20, even 25%. Think about it this way. If you're paying 20% interest on a credit card balance, that's like swimming upstream in a river while someone keeps throwing bricks in your backpack. It completely cancels out the benefits of any money you might have invested in the stock market. The easiest fix? Don't carry a balance. Pay your bill in full every month. Or, if that's not possible right now, start chopping away at it with every extra dollar you can find. Because until you do, that debt is silently eating your future alive. Net worth, the scoreboard that really matters. Let's move beyond income and debt for a second and talk about net worth. This is the big picture number that shows how financially healthy you really are. It's simply everything you own, your house, your car, your savings accounts, your investments, minus everything you owe, like your mortgage, car loans, or credit card balances. According to the Federal Reserve, the median household net worth in the US is about $122,000. Break it down by age, and you see a pretty clear pattern. Under 35, less than $14,000. Ages 35 to 44 is around $91,000. Ages 45 to 54, about $168,000. Ages 55 to 64 is $212,000. Ages 65 to 74, $266,000. What does this tell us? For most people, net worth starts small in your 20s, grows as you hit your peak earning years, and hopefully tops out before retirement. The problem is, many households still enter retirement with less than $300K saved, which isn't nearly enough to last 20 or 30 years. Savings rate. Why most people stay stuck. Here's the reason so many people feel like they're spinning their wheels. The Bureau of Economic Analysis says the average American saves about 6% of their income after taxes. 6%. That's not nearly enough if you want to retire early, buy a home, or build real wealth. To put it in perspective, financial experts recommend saving 10 to 15% for retirement alone, on top of money you're setting aside for emergencies, a house down payment, or other big goals. Think about the big purchases people make. The average down payment on a house is $62,000. A typical kitchen renovation costs $26,000. A new car, over $47,000. How do you cover those if you're only saving 6% of your income? For most people, the answer is debt. which is why so many never feel like they're making progress. Retirement age. When people actually stop working. Now let's circle back to retirement. Ramsey Solutions reports the average retirement age in the US is 61. That's 6 years before most people qualify for full Social Security benefits at 67. On one hand, retiring early sounds great. More time to travel, enjoy hobbies, or just relax. But on the other hand, retiring at 61 means you've probably spent about 40 years in the workforce, and you're likely going to live another 20 years or more, according to the Social Security Administration. That's a long time to stretch your savings. So the question becomes, do you want to spend your golden years stressed about money? Or do you want the freedom to actually enjoy them? The big picture. Where do you stand? So let's recap. The average American worker earns about $52K a year. The median retirement savings is $65K. The average household spends $67K annually. The average credit card debt is $9,260, and the median net worth is $122K. What does this mean for you? It means being average with money isn't enough. If you follow the crowd, you'll probably end up with too little saved, too much debt, and not enough freedom in retirement. But if you start saving more than 6%, avoid bad debt, and invest consistently, you'll be way ahead of the game. Even small changes, like saving an extra $100 a month or cutting unnecessary spending, compound over time into something huge. At the end of the day, money is more than just numbers on a page. It's about freedom. Freedom to retire when you want. Freedom to travel, to take care of your family, to not lie awake at night wondering how you'll pay the bills. So don't aim to be average. The average American is stressed about money. The average American has too much debt. The average American retires with too little saved. You don't have to be average. Start where you are, use what you have, and build step by step. Because when you look back 10, 20, or 30 years from now, you'll be glad you chose to be different.